Trust is a cliff's edge, a precipice you stand upon, never questioning the ground beneath your feet until the moment it crumbles. They say you can't truly know someone until you've seen them in your darkest hour. But what if that darkness comes by their design? What if the hand you've held through life's storms is the same one plotting to push you into the abyss? When betrayal comes, it arrives not as a stranger, but wears the face of love. It sleeps beside you. It knows your secrets. It studies your habits with patient malice, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Some say revenge is a dish best served cold, but justice burns with the heat of 1,000 suns. It rises from the depths like a phoenix, transformed by fire, reborn with purpose. They thought they'd buried her with their lies. They never expected her to rise from those ashes, carrying truth like a weapon honed against the darkness they created. When the storm comes, and it always comes, only the strongest trees remain standing. Catherine Hammond felt the warmth of the Boston spring sunshine through the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office. At 48, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of a woman who had faced life's storms and emerged stronger. Her dark hair, streaked with elegant strands of silver she refused to color, was pulled back in a sleek chignon. The Hammond Investments building, a gleaming testament to 3 generations of financial acumen, stood as her family's legacy amid the city's skyline. She glanced at the framed photographs on her mahogany desk, her late father Robert, stern but kind-eyed in his Navy uniform, her first husband Michael, lost to the Gulf War, and her daughter Melissa, now 23 and studying international finance in London. Kate's fingers brushed against the worn edge of Michael's frame, a habit formed over the 20 years since his death. "Ms. Hammond." Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Mitchell is here with the quarterly projections." Kate straightened her charcoal blazer. "Send him in. Diane." Warren Mitchell strode into the office with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to commanding attention. At 52, he cut an impressive figure, silver-streaked dark hair, tailored suit, and a smile that had charmed investors and the financial press alike. More importantly to Kate, he had been a steadying presence in her life for the past 5 years, first as Hammond's CFO, then as her husband for the last 3 years. "Quarterly numbers look strong," Warren said, placing a leather portfolio on her desk. "The Singapore expansion is already paying dividends." Kate skimmed the report, her trained eye catching the essential figures. "Asian markets are exceeding projections. Your team did good work." Warren moved behind her, his hands resting on her shoulders. "Our team," he corrected, massaging gently. "You look tense. Board meeting next week." Dad always said April meetings set the tone for the year. Warren's fingers paused almost imperceptibly. "Robert Hammond and his superstitions." He chuckled, but something in his tone caught Kate's attention. "Speaking of which, I've been meaning to talk to you about the main property." The Hammond family's coastal retreat in Bar Harbor had been her sanctuary since childhood. Her father had purchased the clifftop home in the 1970s, a place where business was never discussed and family came first. "What about it?" Kate asked, his turning to face him. "I thought we might go up this weekend. Just us." Warren's smile softened. "You've been working non-stop. The cliff views, that bottle of Macallan 25 we've been saving, might help clear your head before the board meeting." Kate felt a flutter of warmth. Between her responsibilities at Hammond and Warren's frequent business trips, their time alone had grown scarce. "That sounds perfect." Warren's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression shifting subtly. "I need to take this. Singapore office." He stepped out, closing the door behind him. Kate returned to the quarterly report, but found her attention drifting to the photograph of her father. Robert Hammond had built Hammond Investments from a modest family firm into a respected financial institution. "Trust, but verify," he'd always told her, in finance and in life. A notification from her calendar app reminded her of her 2 p.m. meeting with the compliance team. Kate gathered her notes and headed toward the conference room on the far side of the executive floor. As she passed Warren's office, she noticed his door ajar. His voice drifted into the hallway, low and urgent. Kate slowed her pace. "It has to be this weekend," he was saying. "Everything's in place. Yes, I've handled the documents. The cliff path is perfect. A tragic accident. Nothing more." Kate froze, her blood turning to ice. She pressed herself against the wall beside his door, straining to hear. "Diana, listen to me." Warren's voice hardened. "Once she's gone, the prenup becomes irrelevant. Hammond Investments will need leadership. The board already respects me. With the right narrative, they'll practically beg me to take over." Diana. The name registered immediately. Diana Pearson, the elegant former model turned PR consultant who had been working with Hammond's marketing team for the past 6 months. Kate had noticed their easy rapport, but had dismissed any concerns. Now, the pieces aligned with horrifying clarity. "I'll call you later," Warren said abruptly. "Let's stick to the plan." Kate's mind raced. She needed to move, to think, to plan. But her body felt leaden with shock. The approaching sound of Warren's footsteps jolted her into action. She hurried toward the women's restroom, locking herself in a stall as her world collapsed around her. "Breathe," she whispered to herself, employing the techniques she'd learned during her military service. "Think." Warren, her husband, her partner, the man who slept beside her each night, was planning to kill her. This weekend, at her beloved family retreat, the betrayal cut so deep she could barely process it. Kate pulled out her phone, hesitated, then dialed a number she rarely used but never forgot. Raymond Frost. The gruff voice that answered carried the weight of decades of friendship. "Ray, it's Kate Hammond," she managed, keeping her voice steady. "I need to see you. Today. Privately." There was a pause. Raymond Frost had been her father's closest friend, an FBI agent now retired. More importantly, he was the only person outside her family who knew every detail of Hammond Investments operations. "The old boathouse. 1 hour," he said simply, then hung up. 30 minutes later, Kate sat in her Tesla, driving toward the Charles River. She had told her assistant she had a migraine and needed to work from home, a half-truth that bought her time. The Riverside Boathouse had been her father's private retreat, now maintained by the Hammond Foundation as a community sailing program site. The administrative office in the back, however, remained private, a place where Robert Hammond had often met with Raymond to discuss matters too sensitive for the company offices. Raymond was already waiting when she arrived, his tall frame silhouetted against the window overlooking the river. At 65, he still carried himself with the alertness of a man accustomed to watching for threats. His weathered face showed concern as Kate entered. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Katie," he said, using the nickname from her childhood. "I think I'm about to become one," she replied, then recounted what she had overheard. Raymond listened without interruption, his expression darkening. When she finished, he spoke carefully. "Warren Mitchell always seemed too polished. Your father had reservations about him." "Dad, he's the one who hired Warren." Raymond nodded slowly. "Robert believed in second chances, but he never confused that with blind trust. He kept files on all senior executives." "Files? What kind of files?" "Insurance," Raymond said. "Background checks more thorough than the standard corporate vetting. Financial histories, personal connections, potential conflicts of interest. And Warren's file," Kate pressed. Raymond moved to the old wooden desk and unlocked a hidden drawer with a key from his pocket. "After Robert died, I maintained his system. Old habits." He extracted a flash drive. "Warren Mitchell isn't who you think he is." For the next hour, Kate absorbed the disturbing truth about her husband. Warren had grown up Michael Weiss in Chicago's troubled South Side, changed his name after college, and systematically reinvented himself. He had worked briefly for Hammond Investments 20 years earlier as a junior analyst, during which time he was suspected of insider trading but never charged due to insufficient evidence. Most disturbingly, he had connections to Meridian Capital, Hammond's chief competitor. Why would Dad hire him, knowing all this? Kate asked, bewildered. Robert believed Warren had talent, thought he deserved another chance. Raymond paused. But he also kept him close to watch him. Keep your friends close, and your enemies closer, Kate finished. The betrayal deepened with each revelation. So Warren's plan, it's not just about money and control. There's history here. Raymond nodded grimly. Revenge, perhaps. Robert fired him back then. That kind of humiliation festers in certain personalities. Kate stood, pacing the small office. I need to go to the police. With what evidence and overheard conversation, these background details? Raymond shook his head. Warren's too smart for that. You'd alert him and lose any advantage. So I just wait for him to kill me? Kate's voice rose with frustration. Raymond's expression hardened. No, you beat him at his own game. He leaned forward. Tell me about this weekend trip. By evening, Kate had returned home to the elegant brownstone in Beacon Hill she shared with Warren. She moved through the familiar rooms with new awareness, seeing them as a stage set where she had unwittingly played the role of trusting wife. Each photograph of them together, each shared memento, now seemed tainted. Warren arrived home later than usual, carrying takeout from her favorite Vietnamese restaurant and a bouquet of lilies. The thoughtful gesture now read as calculating. You left early, he remarked, setting the food on the kitchen counter. Diane mentioned a migraine. It's better now, Kate said, forcing a smile as she accepted the flowers. Just needed some quiet. Warren studied her face. You still look pale. Maybe we should postpone Maine. No, Kate said quickly, perhaps too quickly. She modulated her tone. I've been looking forward to it. The sea air will do me good. He seemed satisfied with her response, brushing a kiss against her temple. I've already packed the car. We'll leave first thing tomorrow. As they ate dinner, Kate maintained the careful facade of normalcy while her mind calculated and planned. Warren spoke about the upcoming board meeting, about Melissa's recent call from London, about everything except his true intentions. His performance was flawless. Concerned husband, dedicated executive, caring stepfather. Kate excused herself early, claiming lingering migraine symptoms. In their bedroom, she packed a small overnight bag with essential items, hiding it in her home office closet. She then took a sleeping pill, one of the prescription medications she occasionally used for insomnia, and left it visibly on her nightstand before heading to the guest bathroom to shower. When Warren came to bed, she feigned drowsiness from the medication, turning away as he slid in beside her. His hand rested briefly on her hip, then withdrew. Sleep well, he murmured. Tomorrow will be better. Kate lay awake long after Warren's breathing had deepened into sleep, staring at the ceiling and replaying Raymond's words. Trust your training. You've faced worse odds. Before joining Hammond Investments, Kate had served 8 years in the Army, including deployment during the Gulf War, where she had met her first husband, Michael. The military had taught her discipline, strategy, and most importantly, how to function under extreme pressure, skills she would need in the coming days. Morning arrived with deceptive tranquility. Sunlight filtered through the bedroom curtains as Kate dressed in casual layers suitable for the Maine coast. Jeans, a light sweater, and hiking boots. Her movements were methodical, precise, betraying none of the turmoil beneath. Warren loaded their bags into his Range Rover while Kate made coffee for the road. When he stepped outside to take a call, she quickly texted Raymond their departure time and route before deleting the message from her phone. The drive north took nearly 4 hours. They passed through Massachusetts into New Hampshire, then Maine, the urban landscape gradually giving way to forests and glimpses of coastline. Warren was unusually talkative, reminiscing about their first dates, discussing future vacation plans as though they had years ahead of them. Kate responded appropriately, laughing at his jokes, asking the right questions, all while hyper-aware of every mile that brought them closer to Bar Harbor. They arrived at the Hammond retreat in mid-afternoon. The house stood on a wooded promontory overlooking the Atlantic, its weathered cedar shingles and blue-gray trim blending with the coastal landscape. The property included nearly a mile of rocky coastline, including the dramatic cliffs that had first attracted her father to the location. "Home sweet home," Warren said, carrying their bags inside. "I've already stocked the refrigerator and bar. Thought we'd take that cliff walk before dinner. The weather report shows rain tomorrow." Kate nodded, unpacking essentials while cataloging the changes in the house. Someone, Warren or perhaps Diana, had been here recently. New candles, fresh flowers, wine chilling in the refrigerator, preparation for a romantic weekend, or for the aftermath of her accident. "I'll change and meet you on the deck," she told him, needing a moment alone. In the master bathroom, Kate locked the door and quickly checked her secondary phone, a prepaid model Raymond had provided. A text confirmed that he and two trusted associates were in position at predetermined locations along the property perimeter. Kate responded with a simple, "proceeding as planned," before hiding the phone in her boot. She emerged onto the deck where Warren waited, admiring the view with two glasses of wine. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said, handing her a glass. "You can see why your father loved this place." Kate took the wine but didn't drink. He always said the cliffs reminded him of life's precarious nature. One misstep. She let the statement hang between them. Warren's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. "Shall we walk the tides perfect for that hidden cove you love?" The path leading from the house to the cliffs had been one of Kate's favorite childhood adventures. Now, each step along the narrow trail felt like movement toward a confrontation she could no longer avoid. The ocean crashed against the rocks below, the roar providing cover for any conversation or cries for help. Warren walked slightly ahead, pointing out changes in the landscape since their last visit. At a particularly dramatic overlook, he stopped, gesturing for Kate to join him near the edge. "Careful," he cautioned, taking her elbow. "These rocks can be slippery." Kate allowed him to guide her, calculating distances, angles, escape routes. The cliff edge was roughly 60 feet above the churning water. Not certain death, but dangerous enough with the rocks below. "I've been thinking," Warren began, his tone contemplative as he gazed out at the horizon, "about legacy. Your father built something remarkable. Hammond Investments isn't just a company, it's a dynasty." "Dad believed in stewardship," Kate replied. "The company serves a purpose beyond profit." Warren's grip on her elbow tightened slightly. "That's where you and I differ. I see untapped potential. Strategic partnerships that could double valuation within 5 years." "You mean Meridian Capital?" Kate watched his expression shift. Surprise, then calculation. "You've been looking at my files," he said, voice hardening. "I know who you really are. Michael." Using his birth name felt like removing a mask. "I know about your first stint at Hammond, about your connections to Meridian." Warren's facade cracked momentarily before he regained composure. "Impressive detective work, but ultimately irrelevant." "Is that what Diana thinks too?" Kate pressed, needing to confirm the extent of the conspiracy. A cold smile spread across Warren's face. "Diana understands ambition, something you inherited but never embraced." The wind picked up, whipping Kate's hair across her face. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, the storm front arriving earlier than forecast. Perfect timing. "Was it always the plan?" Kate asked, needing to understand. "Marry me, kill me, take Hammond." "Not initially," Warren admitted, dropping all pretense. "When I returned to Hammond, I simply wanted success on my terms. But watching you, the dutiful daughter playing executive, I realized you were the obstacle to Hammond's true potential." His voice turned bitter. "Robert Hammond fired me for having vision, then promoted his inexperienced daughter to preserve his outdated ethics." "So this is revenge," Kate said, understanding dawning. "Against my father, through me. Justice." Warren corrected. An opportunity. He glanced at his watch. We should head back before the storm hits. Kate turned as if to follow him, then stopped. One more question. Were there others before me? Warren paused, his back to the cliff edge. Others? Diana's first husband, the skiing accident in Aspen. A flash of genuine surprise crossed Warren's face. You are thorough. Army intelligence teaches research skills. Warren's expression darkened. Then you understand there's no evidence, just like there won't be with you. He moved with startling speed, lunging forward to grab Kate's arms. She had anticipated this moment, but was still shocked by the coldness in his eyes. This man who had shared her bed, her home, her life. A tragic misstep on a familiar path, Warren said, pushing her toward the cliff edge. The grieving widower will guide Hammond through this difficult transition. Kate resisted, planting her feet on the rocky ground. You won't get away with this. I already have. He shoved harder, using his superior weight and strength. Kate allowed herself to be pushed backward, closer to the edge, feeling loose rocks skitter beneath her boots. Warren's confidence grew with each step, his grip relaxing slightly as victory seemed imminent. Give Diana my regard, Kate said, then executed the counterattack Raymond had helped her plan. With military precision, she dropped her center of gravity, breaking Warren's grip. In the same fluid motion, she pulled the concealed climbing harness from beneath her jacket and clipped it to the hidden anchor point they had installed the previous night. As Warren lunged forward to grab her again, Kate pivoted, using his momentum against him. Warren stumbled, arms windmilling as he tried to regain balance. His expression transformed from confidence to shock as he teetered at the cliff's edge. Kate had only meant to destabilize him, to create an opening for her escape, but the loose rocks shifted beneath his feet. Time seemed to slow as Warren fell backward. Kate lunged forward, fingers grazing his jacket but finding no purchase. His eyes locked with hers in a moment of horrified understanding before he disappeared over the edge. The sound of his body hitting the rocks below was lost in the crash of waves and the first rumble of thunder. Kate stood frozen, the reality of what had just occurred washing over her. Self-defense had turned to unintended consequence. She moved cautiously to the cliff edge, peering down to where Warren's broken body lay on the rocks, waves already reaching to claim him. Her hand trembled as she reached for the secondary phone in her boot. Raymond, she said when he answered. There's been a complication. Within 20 minutes, Raymond arrived at the cliff edge, accompanied by a severe-looking woman Kate recognized as Jessica Winters, the SEC investigator Raymond had mentioned during their planning. He fell, Kate explained, still shaken. I only meant to expose him, to get evidence. He lost his balance. Raymond surveyed the scene with professional detachment. The storm will wash away any evidence. By morning, it will look exactly like the accident he planned for you. We can't just leave him, Kate protested. We don't have a choice, Jessica interjected. My investigation into Hammond's trading irregularities has uncovered a pattern of financial crimes leading directly to Mitchell, and possibly others within your company. Diana Pearson, Kate said. Jessica nodded grimly. Among others, if Mitchell's death is ruled suspicious, it will alert his co-conspirators. They'll destroy evidence, cover tracks. So we let them believe their plan succeeded, Raymond concluded. That you fell, not him. Kate stared at the churning sea below. My daughter. Melissa will think I'm dead. Temporarily, Raymond placed a hand on her shoulder. Until we uncover the full extent of this conspiracy and gather enough evidence for prosecution. Lightning flashed across the darkening sky, followed almost immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. The storm was upon them. We need to move quickly, Jessica urged. The local authorities will be watching for storm-related emergencies. We have a narrow window to establish the narrative. Back at the house, Kate changed into dry clothes while Raymond and Jessica staged the scene. Wine glasses on the deck. Kate's phone and wallet left behind. A handwritten note in her journal mentioning her intention to walk the cliff path despite the approaching storm. The Coast Guard will begin search operations once the storm passes, Raymond explained. But with these conditions, recovery could take days, even weeks. Where will I go? Kate asked, the enormity of her situation settling in. I have a safe house in Portland, Jessica said. Off the books, completely secure. You'll stay there while we investigate. As Kate gathered essential items, nothing that would be immediately missed, she paused at the framed photograph of her daughter on the bedside table. She couldn't take it, couldn't leave any indication that she had planned her disappearance. Melissa would suffer, believing her mother dead, but the alternative was worse. If Warren's accomplices suspected Kate was alive, they might target Melissa next. Time to go, Raymond said from the doorway, his expression sympathetic but urgent. Kate took one last look at the home that held so many memories, then stepped out into the raging storm, leaving Catherine Hammond's life behind. The safe house in Portland was a nondescript Victorian in a quiet neighborhood, its peeling paint and overgrown garden providing perfect camouflage. Inside, however, it was equipped with secure communications, surveillance monitoring, and all the tools Jessica needed to continue her investigation. For 3 days, Kate existed in a fog of shock and grief, not for Warren, but for the life she had lost and the pain her apparent death would cause those she loved. She obsessively monitored news reports on a secure laptop, watching as the story unfolded exactly as predicted. Hammond Investments, CEO presumed dead after cliff accident. Search continues for Catherine Hammond. Coast Guard cites challenging conditions. Grieving husband pleads for continued search efforts. Warren had survived. The fall that should have killed him had instead left him hospitalized with multiple fractures and internal injuries, but very much alive. The press showed him in a wheelchair outside Maine Medical Center, his face appropriately haggard as he appealed for the search to continue. He's good, Raymond remarked, watching the performance. The concerned husband role suits him. Kate felt physically ill seeing Warren leverage her supposed death, using it to position himself as Hammond's natural successor in her absence. Board members were already making statements of support, promising stability for clients and employees. On the 4th day, Jessica arrived with news. We've identified unusual trading patterns connected to accounts linked to Diana Pearson. She's been serving as a conduit between Hammond and Meridian Capital. Industrial espionage? Kate asked. More like a hostile takeover by stealth, Jessica explained. Meridian has been acquiring Hammond stock through shell companies for months. Combined with Warren's voting shares as your husband, they're close to controlling interest. How did compliance miss this? Your compliance officer, Thomas Wilson, has been compromised. Significant deposits to offshore accounts coincide with key Hammond trading decisions. Kate's mind raced. Thomas had been with Hammond for over a decade, had attended her wedding to Warren. The betrayal extended deeper than she had imagined. There's more, Jessica continued. Warren Mitchell and Diana Pearson have history beyond Hammond. They were involved during his first marriage. And her husband's skiing accident. Kate pressed, never conclusively ruled homicide, but the investigation file contains numerous inconsistencies. The detective who raised concerns was reassigned after pressure from above. The pieces aligned with sickening clarity. Warren and Diana had done this before, eliminated obstacles to financial gain. Only Kate's overheard conversation and military training had saved her from becoming their next victim. We need to move faster, Kate decided, steel returning to her voice. The longer Warren controls Hammond, the more damage he can do. To the company, to our clients, to my father's legacy. Raymond nodded. I've been working on something, a way to expose Warren without revealing you're alive. He explained his plan, utilizing encrypted communications to provide Jessica with access to hidden Hammond servers containing backup records of all transactions. Records Warren likely didn't know existed, implemented by Robert Hammond after the earlier suspicions about Warren's activities. It's risky, Raymond cautioned. If Warren discovers the server access, he'll know someone with inside knowledge is working against him. Do it, Kate authorized. Hammond was built on integrity. I won't let it become a vehicle for fraud. That night, as Raymond implemented the server access plan, Kate received an unexpected text on the secure phone he had provided. The message contained only an address in downtown Portland and a time 10 p.m. It's from Professor Eleanor Bennett, Raymond explained when she showed him. Your father's old financial advisor. How does she know I'm alive? And how did she get this number? Raymond looked uncomfortable. Eleanor was close to your father, closer than most people knew. She has resources, connections. If she's reaching out, it's important. Kate had known Eleanor her entire life, a brilliant economist who had advised Hammond Investments since the 1980s. At 70, she remained sharp as ever, serving on the company's advisory board despite partial retirement. I need to meet her, Kate decided. It's dangerous, Raymond objected. The fewer people who know you're alive, the better. If Eleanor wanted to expose me, she wouldn't suggest a private meeting, Kate reasoned. And if she has information, we need it. After debate and careful planning, Kate disguised herself. Dark hair hidden under a blonde wig, glasses, and casual clothes unlike anything in her CEO wardrobe. Raymond drove her to a small cafe near the address Eleanor had provided. Watching from a parked car across the street, Eleanor was waiting in a corner booth, elegant as always in a tailored suit despite her age. Her eyes widened momentarily as Kate slid into the seat opposite her, then crinkled with subtle satisfaction. The reports of your death were greatly exaggerated, she said softly, pouring tea from a small pot. I'm relieved, though not entirely surprised. Robert always said you had his instincts. How did you know? Kate asked, accepting the cup. Warren's performance was too perfect, and certain financial maneuvers began suspiciously quickly after your accident. Eleanor's sharp gaze assessed Kate. The question is, what do you plan to do now? Expose Warren and his accomplices? Reclaim Hammond? Eleanor nodded approvingly. I have something that might help. She slid a USB drive across the table. Your father kept records, contingencies. After the first incident with Warren 20 years ago, Robert never fully trusted him. What first incident? Kate asked, confused. I know Dad fired him for suspected insider trading, but is that what Raymond told you? Eleanor raised an eyebrow. The insider trading was proven. Robert had evidence that would have sent Warren to prison. Then why wasn't he prosecuted? Eleanor's expression softened. Because of you? Me, I didn't even know Warren back then. Not directly, Eleanor clarified. Warren's mother worked in Hammond's administrative department for years. A single mother who had overcome addiction, poverty. When Warren's crimes came to light, she begged Robert for mercy, said prison would destroy her son's future. Kate felt the weight of this revelation. So Dad fired Warren but didn't press charges. Robert believed in second chances. He paid for Warren's therapy, monitored his career from a distance. When Warren applied to return to Hammond years later, completely reinvented, Robert saw it as an opportunity to mentor him properly. Instead, Warren saw it as a chance for revenge, Kate concluded bitterly. Eleanor's eyes flashed with anger. Warren Mitchell is a predator who exploits compassion. What he's doing now at Hammond, the partnerships with Meridian, the leveraged positions, it's not just about control. It's about dismantling everything your father built. I need to stop him. Yes, Eleanor agreed. But first, you need to understand what you're truly fighting for. She tapped the USB drive. Robert left contingencies. Catherine, things even the board doesn't know, including the Hammond Preservation Protocol. The what? A clause in the company charter, created during the Depression when your grandfather founded the firm. It states that in cases of suspected corporate malfeasance, a special audit committee can be convened with extraordinary powers to freeze assets, suspend executives, and protect the company's integrity. Kate leaned forward. Who can activate this protocol? Originally, any Hammond by blood. Your father amended it to include certain trusted advisors, myself included. in case something happened to him before you were ready to lead. For the first time since the cliff, Kate felt genuine hope. So we can stop Warren legally, using the company's own bylaws. Eleanor's expression turned grave. It won't be simple. Warren has cultivated allies on the board, and the protocol requires physical presence at Hammond headquarters for activation. You can't do it remotely or through proxy. You mean I'd have to come back from the dead? Kate realized, at exactly the right moment, with irrefutable evidence. Eleanor checked her watch. I should go. My absence will be noticed. She stood, elegant despite her age. One more thing. Catherine, your daughter returns from London tomorrow. Warren has already contacted her. Kate felt her heart drop. Melissa, she'll be devastated. She'll also be in danger if she starts asking questions Warren doesn't want answered. Eleanor's tone was gentle but firm. You need to decide how far you're willing to go to protect her. After Eleanor left, Kate remained in the booth, mind racing with this new information. The protocol could save Hammond, but using it meant exposing herself and potentially putting Melissa at risk if the timing wasn't perfect. The drive back to the safe house was silent, Kate lost in thought as Raymond navigated Portland's quiet streets. When they arrived, Jessica was waiting with news of her own. We've established connection to the backup servers, she reported, and found something interesting. She gestured to her laptop screen displaying financial records. Large transfers to an account in the Caymans, originating from Meridian subsidiary companies. The beneficiary is a shell corporation, but we've traced it to Diana Pearson. Payoffs? Kate asked. More like installment payments, Jessica corrected. Based on timing, they correspond with key intelligence Diana provided about Hammond's strategic positions. Raymond studied the screen. This is the evidence we need. Corporate espionage, fraud, conspiracy, but not attempted murder, Kate pointed out. Not yet. One step at a time, Jessica counseled. If we can freeze Hammond's assets through legal channels, it buys us time to build the criminal case. Kate shared Eleanor's information about the Hammond Preservation Protocol, watching as Raymond and Jessica processed its implications. It's risky, Jessica said finally. Revealing you're alive makes you a target again. And waiting gives Warren more time to dismantle everything my family built, Kate countered. The board meets in 3 days to vote on Warren's appointment as CEO. That's our deadline. Raymond paced the small room. If we do this, we need absolute precision. Warren can't know you're alive until the moment you appear. One leak, one mistake. I know, Kate said, but I've spent my life preparing to lead Hammond. I won't hide while Warren destroys it. The decision made. They worked through the night, developing a strategy that combined Jessica's financial evidence, Raymond's security expertise, and Kate's intimate knowledge of Hammond operations. By morning, the Hammond Resurrection Plan, as Raymond grimly dubbed it, was taking shape. Kate's phone alerted her to a new headline: Memorial service announced for Catherine Hammond. Search operations suspended. The accompanying photograph showed Warren in his wheelchair outside Hammond Tower, Diana Pearson at his side in the role of supportive colleague. Their performance was flawless. Warren appropriately grief-stricken, Diana professional yet compassionate. The memorial service changes things, Raymond noted. It's 2 days before the board meeting. Everyone associated with Hammond will attend, including Melissa, Kate said quietly. The thought of her daughter grieving needlessly tore at Kate's heart. Yet warning Melissa risked everything. Her daughter had never been good at hiding her emotions. If Warren suspected Kate was alive, we need to protect Melissa without telling her, Kate decided reluctantly. Can we monitor her? Jessica nodded. I can arrange surveillance, discreetly. If Warren or Diana approaches her inappropriately, we'll know. As preparations continued, Kate received regular updates on Hammond operations through Eleanor's connections. Warren was moving quickly, scheduling meetings with Meridian executives, reassigning key personnel loyal to Kate, and preparing announcements of strategic restructuring to follow his official appointment as CEO. Most concerning was his outreach to Melissa. Daily calls, offers to meet her at the airport, insistence that she stay at the Beacon Hill house rather than the Hammond family apartment she normally used when visiting Boston. He's isolating her, Kate observed worriedly, making her dependent on him during her grief. Classic manipulation tactic, Raymond agreed. He's positioning himself as her protector, her connection to you. We need to accelerate the timeline, Kate decided. I can't let him manipulate my daughter. The modified plan took shape quickly. Instead of waiting for the board meeting, Kate would make her appearance at the memorial service itself, dramatically interrupting Warren's eulogy with evidence of his crimes. The shock value alone would prevent any immediate counterattack, while the presence of board members, executives, and family friends would ensure multiple witnesses to the evidence presented. 2 days later, as Boston prepared for Catherine Hammond's memorial service, Kate sat in a nondescript sedan 2 blocks from Trinity Church, watching mourners arrive via a secure video feed. Her heart clenched seeing familiar faces, colleagues, friends, extended family, all dressed in black, all believing they were honoring her memory. Then Melissa appeared, escorted by Warren. Kate barely recognized her daughter, the vibrant young woman, now pale and drawn, leaning heavily on Warren's arm despite his wheelchair. Diana Pearson hovered nearby, playing the role of supportive friend with practiced precision. "Showtime in 20 minutes, Raymond said from the driver's seat. "Jessica's team is in position. Eleanor has confirmed the protocol documents are ready." Kate nodded, steeling herself for what came next. She wore a simple black dress, appropriate for the occasion, yet distinct from her usual CEO wardrobe. Her dark hair was styled differently, and subtle makeup changes altered her appearance just enough to give her a few crucial seconds of anonymity when entering. "Remember," Raymond cautioned, "once you're inside, head directly to the designated pew. Don't engage with anyone until the moment Warren begins speaking." "I remember the plan," Kate assured him, though her heart raced. After nearly 2 weeks of hiding, of being presumed dead, she was about to reclaim her life in the most dramatic way possible. Raymond handed her a small panic button. "Press this if anything feels wrong. Jessica's team will extract you immediately." At precisely 1:45 p.m., Kate slipped into Trinity Church through a side entrance, moving confidently toward the main sanctuary. The memorial was already underway, the minister speaking solemnly about life's fragility and Catherine Hammond's contributions to Boston's business and philanthropic communities. Kate took her position in a pew near the back, partially obscured by a pillar, yet with clear sight lines to the pulpit where Warren would soon deliver his eulogy. Around her, strangers and distant acquaintances dabbed at tears, unaware that the woman they mourned sat among them. From this vantage point, Kate could see Melissa in the front row, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The sight nearly broke her resolve. What kind of mother allowed her child to suffer such grief? Even temporarily, but the alternative was worse. If Warren succeeded in his plans, Melissa would lose not just her mother, but her inheritance, her future, her safety. The minister concluded his remarks and invited Warren to speak. A murmur of sympathy rippled through the congregation as he wheeled himself to the pulpit, his broken body a testament to his own tragedy at the cliffs. "Catherine Hammond was more than my wife," Warren began, his voice catching with well-practiced emotion. "She was my partner, my inspiration, the heart of everything we built together." Kate's hands clenched in her lap, anger rising at his audacity. This man had tried to kill her, had intended to throw her body onto the same rocks that had broken his legs. "In the days since her tragic accident, I've grappled not just with grief, but with responsibility," Warren continued. "Catherine entrusted me with her greatest treasures, her love, her family legacy, her vision for Hammond Investments. I stand before you, or rather sit before you," polite, sympathetic laughter, "committed to honoring that trust." Kate checked her watch. Raymond would be in position now, along with Jessica and her team. Eleanor would have delivered the protocol documents to the board members present. Everything was ready. Warren's voice strengthened as he built toward his conclusion. And so, while we mourn Catherine's passing, we also celebrate her legacy by ensuring Hammond Investments continues its tradition of excellence. The board has asked me to step into Catherine's role, a responsibility I accept with humility and determination. Kate stood, heart pounding. This was the moment. As Catherine would often say, Warren continued, unaware of the approaching storm. Family legacy isn't just about preservation. It's about growth, about truth, Kate finished, her voice carrying clearly through the hushed church. About integrity. Every head turned. Gasps echoed through the sanctuary as recognition dawned. Warren froze mid-sentence, his face draining of color as though he truly had seen a ghost. Kate moved forward down the center aisle with measured steps, her gaze locked on Warren. And the truth, Warren, is that you tried to kill me on those cliffs, just as you and Diana tried to kill her first husband in Aspen. The congregation erupted in shocked whispers. Security personnel moved uncertainly, unsure whether to intervene in what appeared to be a bizarre disruption or a miracle. Melissa stood, swaying slightly. Mom! Her voice broke on the single syllable, hope and disbelief warring in her expression. It's me, sweetheart, Kate confirmed, momentarily breaking her focus on Warren to reassure her daughter. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. Warren recovered quickly, his expression shifting from shock to calculated concern. Catherine, you're alive. Thank God. He attempted to maneuver his wheelchair toward her, reaching out as if to embrace her. We need to get you medical attention. You're clearly confused, traumatized from the accident. Stop the performance. Warren, or should I call you Michael Weiss? Kate's voice hardened as she reached the front of the church. The accident at the cliffs wasn't mine. It was yours after you tried to push me to my death. Diana Pearson stood abruptly. This is outrageous. She's clearly suffering from some delusion. Ms. Pearson. Raymond's authoritative voice cut through the chaos as he entered from a side door. FBI credentials displayed. I suggest you remain silent. We have evidence of your involvement in corporate espionage, fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. Jessica Winters appeared on the opposite side, flanked by SEC officers. The Securities and Exchange Commission is freezing all Hammond investment assets pending investigation. We have evidence of significant financial crimes. The church had transformed from memorial to crime scene in moments. Board members looked shell-shocked. Executives whispered frantically. And Warren's mask of concern had shattered completely, revealing the cold calculation beneath. You have nothing? He snarled at Kate, abandoning pretense. No evidence that would stand in court. Actually, Eleanor Bennett rose from her seat among the board members, holding up a leather portfolio. We have everything, including your recorded conversations with Diana planning Catherine's murder, transfers to offshore accounts, and documentation of your systematic manipulation of Hammond trading positions to benefit Meridian Capital. Melissa pushed past Warren's wheelchair to reach Kate, throwing her arms around her mother with a sob of relief. Kate held her daughter tightly, feeling Melissa tremble with the emotional whiplash of grief to joy. Warren made one desperate play. The company needs leadership. Whatever you think I've done, the damage to Hammond from these accusations will be managed through the Hammond Preservation Protocol. Kate interrupted, still holding Melissa. A provision my grandfather created specifically to protect the company from people like you. As if on cue, several board members stood, moving to form a protective semicircle around Kate and Melissa. The protocol has been activated, Eleanor confirmed. As of this moment, Warren Mitchell has no authority at Hammond Investments. All decisions revert to the Preservation Committee until investigations are complete. Security personnel moved in, positioning themselves near Warren and Diana. Not quite an arrest, that would come later, but a clear message that their freedom was temporary. Kate addressed the stunned congregation, her voice steady and clear. I apologize for the deception. After surviving Warren's attempt on my life, I needed to remain hidden until we gathered evidence of the larger conspiracy against Hammond Investments. I regret the pain my apparent death caused, especially to my daughter. She squeezed Melissa's shoulders. But Hammond was built on integrity, and I could not allow that legacy to be corrupted. As Raymond escorted Kate and Melissa toward the side exit, Warren called out one last time, his voice laced with venom. "This isn't over, Catherine." Kate paused, turning to face the man she had once trusted with her heart and her future. "You're right about one thing. Warren, family legacy isn't just about preservation. It's about evolution, about becoming stronger through adversity." She met his gaze unflinchingly. "Thank you for teaching me that lesson." Outside Trinity Church, camera flashes exploded as news of Catherine Hammond's resurrection spread. Raymond guided them to a waiting car, shielding them from the press. As the car pulled away, Melissa clung to her mother, questions tumbling out between tears of relief. "How did you survive? Why didn't you tell me? I thought I'd lost you too." Kate held her daughter close, the weight of the past 2 weeks finally hitting her. "I'll tell you everything," she promised. "But first, let's go home. The real work is just beginning." The car turned toward Beacon Hill, carrying Catherine Hammond back to the life she had nearly lost. Changed, hardened, but ultimately victorious. The storm had passed, but the rebuilding had only just begun. 6 months after her dramatic resurrection at Trinity Church, Catherine Hammond stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her Hammond Tower office, watching Boston awaken in the golden light of dawn. The city appeared unchanged, the same historic buildings nestled against modern skyscrapers, the same Charles River winding its familiar path, but Catherine herself had been fundamentally transformed by her near-death experience. The woman who had once trusted too easily, who had believed in second chances and overlooked warning signs, had been replaced by someone more vigilant, more decisive. The press had taken to calling her the Phoenix CEO, a moniker that captured her public resurrection, but missed the deeper metamorphosis beneath. "Ms. Hammond." Her new assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The audit team is assembled in conference room A. Thank you, Lydia. I'll be right there." Kate smoothed her tailored navy suit and gathered the leather portfolio containing the morning's agenda. The Hammond Investments that awaited her beyond her office door was still recovering from Warren Mitchell's betrayal, while the company's reputation had ultimately benefited from Kate's transparent handling of the crisis. The internal wounds ran deep. The conference room fell silent as Kate entered. 8 people sat around the mahogany table, including Jessica Winters, now officially retained as Hammond's SEC compliance consultant, and Professor Eleanor Bennett, whose role had expanded to include ethics oversight. "Good morning," Kate began, taking her seat at the head of the table. "Where do we stand with the Meridian connection?" Jessica opened her laptop. "We've identified 17 instances where confidential Hammond information was leaked to Meridian traders. The SEC has expanded their investigation to include Meridian's board, but they're claiming ignorance of Warren's activities." "Convenient," Kate remarked dryly. "And the asset recovery, 60% of diverted funds have been reclaimed," reported Marcus Chen, Hammond's new CFO. "The Cayman accounts proved more complex than anticipated, but we expect full recovery within 30 days. Kate nodded, making notes. "And the criminal cases," Jessica's expression tightened. "Warren's legal team is pursuing an aggressive defense. They're claiming diminished capacity due to trauma from the cliff accident, painting him as the victim of your elaborate revenge scheme." "The evidence says otherwise," Kate replied calmly, though the characterization stung. "And Diana Pearson, negotiating a plea deal, she's offering testimony against Warren in exchange for reduced charges." Kate suppressed her frustration. Diana's betrayal had been nearly as devastating as Warren's. The woman had entered her home, befriended her colleagues, all while planning her death. "Keep me updated on any developments," Kate instructed. "Now, let's discuss the reorganization proposal." For the next hour, the team reviewed plans to restructure Hammond's management, implementing new safeguards against the vulnerabilities Warren had exploited. The changes were substantial, but necessary additional oversight for executive decisions, enhanced conflict of interest protocols, regular independent audits. As the meeting concluded, Eleanor remained seated while others filed out. At 70, her posture remained impeccable, her gaze sharp behind tortoiseshell glasses. "You've accomplished remarkable things these past months, Catherine," she observed once they were alone. "Robert would be proud." Kate allowed herself a small smile. "There's still so much to fix." "True, but don't discount how far you've come." Eleanor studied her with the penetrating gaze that had intimidated generations of economics students. "You haven't been sleeping." It wasn't a question. Kate sighed, setting down her pen. "Nightmares. The cliff. Mostly. Sometimes variations, Warren succeeding, Melissa being targeted. Trauma doesn't disappear simply because you survived it," Eleanor noted. "Have you considered talking to someone professionally? Between the criminal proceedings, civil litigation, and rebuilding Hammond's reputation, when would I schedule therapy sessions?" Kate attempted humor, but Eleanor remained serious. "You make time for what matters. Catherine, your father learned that lesson too late." She stood, gathering her papers. "Recovery isn't just about Hammond investments, it's about you." After Eleanor left, Kate returned to her office. Eleanor's words lingering. She had indeed been functioning on minimal sleep, working 14-hour days while maintaining a public face of unshakable confidence. The physical and emotional toll was mounting, but acknowledging weakness felt dangerous, as though the moment she relaxed her vigilance, some new threat would emerge. Her private phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. "Lunch today, Italian place near campus, 1 p.m. Kate smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. If anything positive had come from the ordeal, it was her strengthened relationship with her daughter. Melissa had taken a leave from her London program to return to Boston, transferring to Harvard Business School while helping with Hammond's recovery efforts. Their shared trauma had bridged the distance that had grown between them during Melissa's college years. "See you at 1, Kate replied, then turned her attention to the stack of reports awaiting review. At noon, Raymond Frost arrived for their weekly security briefing. At 65, he moved more slowly these days, the stress of recent months having aggravated his heart condition. Yet his mind remained sharp, his instincts undiminished. "Warren had a visitor yesterday," he reported without preamble, settling into the chair across from Kate's desk. "James Blackwood, CEO of Meridian Capital." Kate's eyebrows rose. "That's bold, considering Meridian's claims of no involvement in Warren's schemes." "Exactly. The visit was kept off official logs. Blackwood signed in it under a different name. My contact at the detention center recognized him." "What does it mean?" Raymond leaned forward, wincing slightly as he adjusted his position. "It means Meridian is worried. If Warren implicates them to save himself, their entire executive team could face charges." "You think they're offering him something to stay quiet, or threatening him?" Raymond's expression darkened. "Warren knows too much. If I were Meridian, I'd consider him a significant liability." Kate processed this information, mentally adjusting her assessment of the threats still facing Hammond. "We need to know what they discussed." "I'm working on it." "But Catherine," Raymond hesitated, "there's something else. Diana Pearson's been moved to protective custody. Apparently, she received threats after word of her plea negotiations leaked. From Meridian, possibly, or from Warren himself. He still has resources, connections." Kate felt a chill despite the office's controlled temperature. "Should we be concerned about our security? I've increased surveillance on both your home and Melissa's apartment. All Hammond executive security protocols remain at highest level." Raymond studied her face. "But you need to remain vigilant. This isn't over yet." "It won't be over until Warren and everyone involved are held accountable," Kate replied, her voice hardening. "Hammond isn't just a company. Ray, it's my family's legacy, built on values Warren tried to destroy." Raymond nodded, understanding. Just don't lose yourself in the fight. Katie, I promised your father I'd look out for you, not just Hammond. After Raymond left, Kate checked her watch still time before meeting Melissa. She turned to her computer, accessing the secure server where Hammond's most sensitive records were stored. The evidence against Warren was overwhelming: recorded conversations, financial transfers, manipulated trading records. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Some piece of the puzzle that would explain how Warren had orchestrated such an elaborate betrayal. Kate pulled up Warren's personnel file, scanning information she had reviewed dozens of times since her return. Michael Weiss, born in Chicago's South Side to a single mother struggling with addiction. Scholarships to Northwestern, name change after graduation. Meteoric rise through several financial firms before his first stint at Hammond, ending with his dismissal for insider trading. Then the wilderness years consulting work, a failed marriage, reinvention before his triumphant return to Hammond as a seemingly reformed man. What had driven him? Simple greed seemed insufficient explanation for such calculated malice. Kate clicked through to the psychological evaluation conducted during his executive hiring process. The report noted ambitious personality with strong drive for recognition, but found no concerning indicators of antisocial tendencies. Either the evaluation had missed critical warning signs, or Warren had masterfully concealed his true nature. Her phone buzzed with a reminder about lunch. Kate closed the files, gathered her purse, and headed for the private elevator. Security protocols established after her return meant she no longer walked openly through Hammond Tower's main lobby. Instead, a car would be waiting in the underground garage, driver and route pre-cleared by Raymond's team. The Italian restaurant near Harvard's campus was small and unassuming, precisely why Melissa had chosen it. Despite being Hammond's heir apparent, Melissa valued her privacy and normalcy, particularly since the media frenzy following Kate's resurrection. Melissa was already seated at a corner table when Kate arrived, her dark hair so like her mother's pulled back in a casual ponytail. At 23, she was striking rather than conventionally beautiful, with her father Michael's thoughtful eyes and Kate's determined jaw. "Mom!" Melissa stood to embrace her, the gesture still carrying a hint of desperation, as though reassuring herself that Kate was truly alive. "You made it! I promised, didn't I?" Kate returned the embrace before sitting opposite her daughter. "How are classes? Challenging in the right ways?" Melissa smiled. Professor Abernathy assigned a case study on Hammond's response to the Mitchell crisis. It was surreal analyzing my own family's company as an academic exercise. "And what was your analysis?" Kate asked, genuinely curious. That Hammond's transparency saved its reputation, but the structural vulnerabilities that allowed the crisis existed long before Warren. Melissa hesitated. Grandfather built Hammond around his own personality decisions, flowing through a single trusted leader. It worked when that leader had integrity, but created an exploitable weakness when someone like Warren gained influence. Kate finished, impressed by her daughter's insight. "You should share that perspective with the reorganization team." They ordered lunch margarita pizza for Melissa, caprese salad for Kate, and fell into comfortable conversation about Melissa's studies, Hammond's recovery efforts, plans for the upcoming holiday season. For a brief, precious interval, they were simply mother and daughter, not survivors of a traumatic betrayal. As they finished their meal, Melissa's expression grew serious. "I've been thinking about something. A lot, actually." She fidgeted with her napkin. "I want to testify at Warren's trial." Kate set down her water glass carefully. "Absolutely not. Mom, Melissa, the defense will tear you apart. They'll twist your words. Try to use your testimony to support Warren's claims about my revenge scheme. It's too risky." "But I'm the only one who saw both sides," Melissa insisted. "I was with Warren after your death. I saw how he manipulated everyone, including me. The jury needs to hear that." Kate reached across the table, covering her daughter's hand with her own. "The prosecution has mountains of evidence. Your testimony isn't necessary for conviction." "This isn't just about conviction. It's about me. Melissa's eyes, so like her father's, held a determination Kate recognized from her own mirror. Warren used me. Mom, he pretended to comfort me while plotting to steal my inheritance. I need to confront him. Kate felt a surge of protective instinct warring with respect for her daughter's agency. Let me discuss it with the prosecutors. If and only if they believe your testimony strengthens the case without putting you at risk. We'll reconsider. Melissa nodded, accepting the compromise. Fair enough. As they walked out together, Kate noticed a dark sedan parked across the street, its driver watching the restaurant entrance with unusual intensity. She casually guided Melissa toward their waiting car, memorizing the sedan's license plate to report to Raymond later. Everything okay? Melissa asked, catching her mother's momentary tension. Just thinking about my next meeting? Kate lied smoothly, unwilling to alarm her daughter over what might be nothing. Want to ride back to campus? After dropping Melissa at Harvard, Kate called Raymond to report the suspicious vehicle. He promised to investigate immediately, his concern evident even through the brief call. The afternoon brought a series of meetings with Hammond's international division heads, discussions of strategy adjustment in the wake of the crisis, and preparations for the quarterly earnings report, the first since Warren's arrest. Through it all, Kate maintained her focused, assured demeanor, giving no indication of the underlying anxiety triggered by the sedan outside the restaurant. At 6 o'clock, as most Hammond employees prepared to leave for the day, Kate remained at her desk reviewing contract language for a pending acquisition. The work was detailed and absorbing exactly what she needed to quiet her racing thoughts. A soft knock interrupted her concentration. Eleanor Bennett stood in the doorway, coat draped over one arm. You're still here, Eleanor observed. As am I. Two workaholics cut from the same cloth. Kate smiled wearily. Just finishing some review work. It will still be there tomorrow. Eleanor entered, settling into a visitor chair without invitation. Catherine, I've known you since you were 8 years old, stubbornly explaining to your father why girls should be allowed in board meetings. You've always pushed yourself beyond reasonable limits. These aren't normal circumstances. They never are. Eleanor's tone was gentle but firm. Your father used the same rationale. Just until this deal closes. Eleanor, just until the market stabilizes. He worked himself into an early grave, believing Hammond needed him more than he needed rest. Kate flinched at the comparison. Her father's heart attack at 62 had been attributed to stress, poor diet, and insufficient sleep, the executive's trifecta of self-neglect. What would you have me do? Hammond is still vulnerable. Warren's trial starts next month. Meridian continues circling like vultures. And none of that will be resolved tonight. Eleanor interrupted. Go home. Catherine, have dinner. Sleep. The company needs you healthy and clear-headed, not exhausted and paranoid. The word paranoid stung, but Kate recognized the underlying truth in Eleanor's counsel. She had been pushing herself relentlessly, viewing every shadow as a potential threat, every challenge as a crisis requiring her personal attention. Perhaps you're right, she conceded, closing the contract file. A few hours away might provide fresh perspective. Eleanor nodded approval. Raymond mentioned you spotted a suspicious vehicle earlier. Any update? False alarm, Kate replied, gathering her things. Apparently it was a private investigator working an insurance fraud case at the building next door. Nothing to do with us. Good, though I suspect Raymond will verify that claim thoroughly. That's why I keep him around, Kate said with a small smile. His paranoia exceeds even mine. Eleanor walked with Kate to the executive elevator, their conversation shifting to more pleasant topics and upcoming economic forum Eleanor was addressing. Plans for Hammond's annual charity gala. Melissa's academic progress. The easy exchange reminded Kate of simpler times, when her greatest challenge had been living up to her father's legacy, not reclaiming it from betrayal. At the underground garage, Kate's driver held the car door as she slid into the back seat. Through the window, she watched Eleanor stride toward her own vehicle, remarkably spry for her 70 years. The woman had been a constant in Kate's life mentor, advisor, surrogate mother after Kate's own mother died when she was 12. That Eleanor had helped save Hammond from Warren seemed fitting, a completion of the circle of care that had begun decades earlier. The drive to Beacon Hill took longer than usual. Evening traffic snarled by construction. Kate used the time to review emails on her secure phone, responding to urgent matters while filing others for morning attention. By the time the car pulled up to her brownstone, dusk had settled over Boston, streetlights glowing amber against the deepening blue sky. Kate had sold the home she had shared with Warren, unable to bear its tainted memories. This new residence, a historic townhouse near the State House, offered both security and fresh beginnings. Raymond had personally overseen its renovation, incorporating state-of-the-art security systems behind the preserved Federal-era facade. Inside, Kate moved through her evening routine with military efficiency, changing from work clothes to comfortable loungewear, preparing a simple dinner, reviewing the next day's schedule. The house, though beautifully appointed with antiques and art from Hammond family collections, still felt more like accommodation than home. Kate had yet to fully inhabit the space, to leave her personal imprint beyond the practical necessities. After dinner, she poured a glass of Cabernet and carried it to the small library where floor-to-ceiling bookshelves housed volumes rescued from her previous home. Here, surrounded by familiar books, she felt closest to herself to the Catherine who had existed before Warren's betrayal. She selected a well-worn copy of Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea from the shelf, a book her father had often quoted during difficult business periods. "A man can be destroyed, but not defeated," he would say, finding resonance in Santiago's struggle against forces larger than himself. As Kate settled into the leather armchair, her secure phone rang. Raymond's name appeared on the screen. "Kate," he said without preamble when she answered. "We have a situation. Diana Pearson is dead." The wine glass nearly slipped from Kate's fingers. What? How? Apparent suicide in her cell. Found hanging an hour ago? Suicide, Kate repeated incredulously. She was cooperating, negotiating a plea deal. Why would she? Exactly, Raymond cut in. The timing is suspicious. Her testimony would have implicated people beyond Warren, possibly reaching into Meridian's executive ranks. Kate set her wine aside, mind racing. You think she was murdered made to look like suicide? I think nothing happens by coincidence where Warren Mitchell is concerned. Raymond's voice was grim. Diana knew too much, and someone ensured her silence. What about Warren? Is he secure? Maximum security, under constant surveillance. But if someone got to Diana? The implication hung between them. If Diana could be silenced despite protective custody, no one connected to the case was truly safe. I'm increasing security on you and Melissa, Raymond continued. Additional personnel, enhanced protocols. Until we know exactly what we're dealing with. I understand, Kate interrupted, her earlier fatigue vanishing under a surge of renewed vigilance. Has Melissa been notified? Not yet. I came to you first. Let me tell her. She should hear it from me. Kate moved to her desk, already reaching for her laptop. I'll need the preliminary report as soon as it's available. You'll have it. Kate. Raymond paused. Be careful. This changes things. After they disconnected, Kate sat motionless, absorbing the implications of Diana's death. The woman had been many things: manipulative, greedy, complicit in attempted murder, but her cooperation had been crucial to building the broader case against Meridian Capital. Without her testimony, prosecutors would struggle to establish the full conspiracy. Kate dialed Melissa's number, steeling herself for the conversation. Her daughter answered on the third ring, background noise suggesting she was at a cafe or restaurant. Mom, everything okay? You never call this late. I'm fine, but something's happened. Kate kept her voice calm, factual. Diana Pearson was found dead in her cell about an hour ago. Apparent suicide, though the investigation is just beginning. Silence stretched across the connection before Melissa responded. You don't believe it was suicide? I believe it's suspicious, Kate answered carefully. Raymond is increasing security for both of us as a precaution. More background noise, then the sound of a door closing as Melissa apparently moved somewhere private. Do you think Warren? I think many people benefited from Diana's silence. Kate avoided direct accusation, mindful of potential legal ramifications. Where are you right now? Study group at Elliott House. We're finishing a project due tomorrow. Are you planning to stay on campus tonight? That was the plan. Sarah offered her couch since we'll be working late. Kate weighed the options, balancing security concerns against alarming her daughter unnecessarily. Text me Sarah's address. I'll have security do a discreet patrol of the area overnight. Mom, is that really? Humor me, Kate interrupted gently. It's likely nothing, but I'd rather be overcautious than underprepared. After finishing with Melissa, Kate returned to the library, Hemingway forgotten as she powered up her laptop to access Hammond's secure server. Diana's death created vulnerabilities in the prosecution's case that needed immediate assessment. She was deep in legal documents when her phone buzzed with an incoming email from Raymond, the preliminary report on Diana's death. Kate opened it immediately, scanning the sparse details. Diana had been found during routine cell checks, hanging from a bed sheet attached to a ceiling vent. No note, no visible signs of struggle. Time of death estimated between 6:08 and 7:00 p.m. Attached to the report was a surveillance image showing Diana's last visitor, her attorney, Martin Graves, leaving at 5:45 p.m. Kate studied the grainy photo, noting the briefcase in Graves' hand, his posture as he spoke with the guard at the security checkpoint. Something tugged at her memory, a detail from the Hammond files on Warren's conspiracy. She opened another folder, searching until she found what she sought, a list of Diana's known associates compiled during the investigation. There, buried among business connections and social acquaintances, was Martin Graves, listed as having represented Diana during her divorce 5 years earlier. But another name appeared alongside his Graves' law partner, Philip Stern, who had previously served as outside counsel for none other than Meridian Capital. The connection, Kate murmured, pieces aligning in her mind. Graves had maintained attorney-client privilege with Diana while potentially sharing information with a partner connected to Meridian. Whether he had been directly involved in her death remained unclear, but the link was too significant to ignore. Kate immediately forwarded the information to Raymond and Jessica Winters, adding her observations about the potential conflict of interest. Then she reached for her wine, taking a fortifying sip as she considered the broadening conspiracy. If Meridian had indeed orchestrated Diana's death, they were growing desperate, and desperate adversaries were unpredictable. Her phone rang again, this time Jessica Winters calling. "I received your email," Jessica said without greeting. "The Graves-Stern connection wasn't in our initial assessment. Good catch. It was buried in Hammond's background check on Diana," Kate explained. "When Warren recruited her for his scheme, my father's security protocols flagged her for enhanced vetting. Those protocols may have just broken this case wide open. I've forwarded the information to the prosecutor and requested immediate investigation into Graves' communications before and after his visit to Diana." "What about Warren's security if they got to Diana?" "Already addressed," Jessica assured her. "Warren's been moved to isolation with round-the-clock monitoring. No visitors except his attorney, with enhanced screening procedures." After the call ended, Kate remained at her desk, mind churning with implications and contingencies. Diana's death marked an escalation from financial crime to potential murder. The stakes had risen dramatically, and with them, the threat to anyone who stood in Meridian's way. Kate glanced at the clock, nearly midnight. She should sleep, should heed Eleanor's advice about self-care and perspective. Yet her body hummed with restless energy, mind too active for rest. She moved to the bay window overlooking the quiet Beacon Hill street, checking instinctively for unfamiliar vehicles or suspicious movement. The security team Raymond had assigned maintained a discreet presence, a parked car halfway down the block. Occasional patrols by plainclothes personnel. Their presence reassured her, though she recognized the false comfort it provided. If Meridian could reach Diana in protective custody, traditional security measures might prove insufficient. Kate returned to her desk and opened a secure messaging app developed specifically for Hammond executives. She typed quickly, decisively, emergency meeting, 7 a.m. tomorrow, secure conference room, attendance mandatory for executive team, security division heads, and legal counsel, agenda Diana Pearson situation and implications for Hammond security, highest confidentiality protocols in effect. After sending the message, Kate finally allowed herself to acknowledge the exhaustion pulling at her limbs. She moved through the house, checking locks and security systems before climbing the stairs to her bedroom. The space remained minimally furnished: king bed, antique dresser, reading chair, more hotel suite than personal sanctuary. Like much of her life since Warren's betrayal, it served function over comfort. Kate completed her bedtime routine mechanically, mind still cycling through scenarios and contingencies. As she slid between cool sheets, she reached for the framed photograph on her nightstand: Michael in his military uniform, arm around a younger Kate, both laughing at some forgotten joke. She touched his face through the glass, wishing she could ask his advice, could borrow his strength. "I'm trying, Michael," she whispered to the empty room. "I'm trying to protect what we built, to secure Melissa's future. But I don't know if I'm strong enough for this fight." Sleep, when it finally came, brought no rest. Kate's dreams twisted between memory and nightmare, Warren pushing her toward the cliff edge, Diana hanging from a ceiling vent, Melissa standing unprotected as shadowy figures circled. She woke repeatedly, checking her phone for updates or emergencies, before falling back into troubled slumber. Dawn arrived as a relief, pale light filtering through curtains Kate hadn't bothered to close. She rose immediately, exchanging night clothes for running gear. Physical exertion had always cleared her mind, and she needed absolute clarity for the day ahead. Kate texted her security detail, informing them of her intention to run, then headed out into the crisp morning air. Her route took her along historic streets to the Boston Common, where early joggers and dog walkers created a semblance of normalcy. The familiar rhythm of her feet against pavement, the controlled pattern of her breathing, gradually steadied her thoughts. By the time she returned home to shower and dress for the day, Kate had formulated a response plan for Diana's death. It would require bold action, resources, and calculated risk. But Hammond Investments had weathered crises before. This one, like others, would be met with resolute determination. At 6:45 a.m., Kate strode into Hammond Tower through the executive entrance, nodding to security personnel as she proceeded to the secure conference room on the 40th floor. The space, designed for Hammond's most sensitive discussions, featured sophisticated anti-surveillance technology, restricted access, and no electronic connectivity to the outside world. Team members arrived in quick succession: Marcus Chen from Finance, Hammond's General Counsel, Victoria Webb, Security Chief Alan Delgado, and other essential personnel. Raymond entered last, moving slower than usual, fatigue evident in the deep lines of his face. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Kate began once everyone was seated. "As some of you already know, Diana Pearson was found dead in her cell last night, apparently by suicide." Murmurs circulated around the table, expressions shifting from shock to concern. "We have reason to believe her death was not self-inflicted," Kate continued, "but rather orchestrated by parties who stood to lose significantly from her testimony. Specifically, we've identified connections between Diana's attorney and Meridian Capital that warrant immediate investigation." She outlined the Graves-Stern connection, the timing of Diana's death, and the implications for the broader case against Warren and his co-conspirators. "This represents a significant escalation," Kate concluded. "We must operate under the assumption that Meridian will take further action to protect themselves, potentially targeting others connected to the investigation, including Hammond executives." Victoria Webb, Hammond's veteran general counsel, leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Catherine, a three-pronged response," Kate replied, her tone decisive. "First, enhanced security protocols for all senior staff involved in the Warren Mitchell case. Raymond will provide details shortly. Second, acceleration of our evidence collection and case building against Meridian. And third, she paused, meeting each person's gaze in turn. A strategic counteroffensive. Counteroffensive, Marcus echoed. What does that entail? Hammond will immediately launch a comprehensive audit of all financial institutions with significant exposure to Meridian Capital, focusing on potential vulnerabilities similar to those Warren exploited here. We'll partner with regulatory authorities, offering our expertise in identifying sophisticated financial manipulation. You're suggesting we help regulators investigate Meridian's other potential victims, Victoria clarified, expression thoughtful. Positioned as industry leadership in financial ethics rather than targeted retaliation. Exactly. Meridian believes they can intimidate us into retreat. Instead, we'll expand the battlefield, demonstrating that attempts to silence witnesses only strengthen our resolve to expose corruption industry-wide. The strategy carried risk. Meridian would recognize the move as direct challenge, but it also leveraged Hammond's unique position and knowledge. More importantly, it transformed their stance from defensive to offensive, reclaiming agency in a situation where they had been reactive for too long. After detailing implementation plans and assigning responsibilities, Kate yielded the floor to Raymond for security briefing. Despite his evident fatigue, his presentation was thorough, covering enhanced protocols for executive protection, communication security, and threat assessment. Finally, Raymond concluded, we've established a secure residence facility outside Boston. In the event of credible direct threat, essential personnel will relocate there to continue operations while maintaining maximum security. A safe house, Marcus observed with a hint of disbelief. I never imagined corporate finance would involve actual safe houses. Welcome to Hammond Investments in the post-Warren era, Kate replied with grim humor, where financial acumen meets counterintelligence. As the meeting adjourned, Kate requested Raymond remain behind. When the room had emptied, she studied her old friend with concern. You look exhausted, Ray. When did you last sleep? Sleep is overrated, he dismissed, though the shadows beneath his eyes told a different story. I've been coordinating with contacts at FBI, local law enforcement, private security. Diana's death created numerous loose ends. And your heart condition, Kate pressed. Have you seen your doctor recently? Raymond waved away her concern. I'm fine. The medication helps. You're not fine. You're pushing yourself too hard, and I can't afford to lose you. Kate's voice softened. Take the afternoon off. Get some rest. That's not a suggestion. He started to protest, then sighed, shoulders slumping slightly. Maybe a few hours, but I want direct updates on any developments with the Graves investigation. Agreed. Now go home before I have security escort you. After Raymond departed, Kate remained in the conference room, reviewing her notes and mentally preparing for her next meeting, a conference call with the SEC regarding Hammond's proposed industry-wide audit initiative. The bold move would position Hammond as an ethics leader while potentially uncovering evidence of Meridian's broader criminal activities. As Kate gathered her materials, Eleanor Bennett appeared in the doorway, elegant as always in a tailored suit that defied her 70 years. I heard about Diana, she said simply. Terrible business. You don't seem surprised, Kate observed. When people like Warren Mitchell and James Blackwood feel cornered, they become dangerous. Eleanor entered, closing the door behind her. Your father dealt with similar situations during the savings and loan crisis. Different players, same ruthless instincts. Did those players resort to murder? Eleanor's expression turned somber. Not that we ever proved, but there were convenient accidents, witnesses who recanted, evidence that disappeared. She settled into a chair across from Kate. The financial world has always had its dark corners. Catherine, your father navigated them without compromising Hammond's integrity. You'll do the same. I've initiated a counteroffensive, Kate admitted. Hammond will partner with regulators to investigate all major institutions with Meridian exposure. identifying potential fraud patterns across the industry. A smile of approval spread across Eleanor's face. Bold. Meridian can't retaliate without appearing guilty. Robert would have applauded the strategy. It's aggressive, Kate acknowledged. Possibly risky. Leadership often is. Speaking of which, Eleanor segued smoothly. The board is extremely pleased with your handling of the crisis thus far. There's discussion of formalizing your position as CEO permanently at next month's meeting. The news should have pleased Kate. The acting CEO designation had been a concession to shareholders nervous about stability after Warren's arrest. Permanent appointment represented full confidence in her leadership. You don't seem thrilled, Eleanor noted, observing Kate's muted reaction. It's not that. I am honored by the board's confidence. It's just... Kate hesitated, organizing her thoughts. When I took over after Dad died, I felt I was fulfilling his vision, continuing his legacy. Now, after Warren, after everything that's happened, Hammond needs to evolve beyond the Hammond family, beyond me. What are you suggesting? A governance restructuring? Distributed leadership model with appropriate checks and balances? No single person, not even a Hammond, should hold unilateral power. Eleanor studied her with newfound respect. That's remarkably selfless, Catherine, and strategically sound. Hammond's vulnerability to Warren stemmed partly from concentrated authority. Exactly, we need institutional strength, not cult of personality, Kate smiled ruefully. Even if the personality has the right surname. The board won't resist. Some will. Change is always uncomfortable. But recent events provide compelling justification. Kate gathered her portfolio, preparing to leave. I'll present the proposal at next month's meeting, alongside the permanent CEO recommendation. The board can consider them together. Eleanor rose as well, her expression thoughtful. You've changed, Catherine. Not just since Warren's betrayal, but in how you view leadership itself. I've had excellent teachers, Kate replied, thinking of her father, Eleanor herself, even the painful lessons Warren had inadvertently provided. Now I need to apply those lessons to Hammond's future. The conversation with Eleanor lingered in Kate's mind as she moved through her day conference calls, strategy sessions, media interviews carefully scripted to position Hammond's audit initiative as industry leadership rather than retribution against Meridian. By late afternoon, preliminary responses from regulatory agencies indicated strong interest in Hammond's proposed partnership, exactly as Kate had anticipated. At 5 o'clock, Victoria Webb requested an urgent meeting. Hammond's general counsel arrived with a file folder and troubled expression. The prosecutor called. She began without preamble. They found something concerning in Diana's cell, a journal containing what appears to be a comprehensive account of the conspiracy against you. That's helpful for our case, isn't it? Kate asked, confused by Victoria's evident distress. It would be, except for certain entries implicating Hammond board members in Warren's schemes. Victoria opened the folder, revealing photocopied pages of handwritten notes. Specifically, these passages suggesting Thomas Wilson wasn't Warren's only accomplice within Hammond. Kate scanned the indicated sections, stomach tightening at Diana's allegations. According to the journal, 2 unnamed board members had received payments for supporting Warren's initiatives and ignoring red flags in financial reports. This could be disinformation, Kate said, mind racing. Diana trying to create confusion? Divide our response? Possibly, but the prosecutor is taking it seriously. They've requested access to complete board financial records to investigate potential connections to Meridian subsidiaries. Kate leaned back, absorbing this new complication. If Diana's claims prove true, the conspiracy extended deeper into Hammond than anyone had suspected. Trust, already fragile after Warren's betrayal, would shatter completely. Give them whatever they need, she decided. Complete transparency. And Victoria, keep this between us for now. If board members are implicated, premature disclosure could compromise the investigation. After Victoria departed, Kate stood at her office window, watching evening shadows lengthen across Boston. The city continued its rhythms below commuters heading home, lights flickering on in office buildings and apartments. Life proceeding normally despite the gathering storm within Hammond Tower. Her secure phone buzzed with an incoming text from Raymond. Lead on Graves, meeting his partner Stern tonight at private club. Surveillance in place. Kate replied immediately. Keep me updated. And Raymond, be careful. The response came seconds later. Always am. Get some rest. Katie. Kate smiled faintly at the familiar nickname, then returned to her desk to prepare for her final meeting of the day, a video conference with Hammond's London office regarding their role in the Global Audit Initiative. As she reviewed presentation materials, her thoughts continued cycling through Diana's journal revelations and their implications. If board members had indeed conspired with Warren, Hammond's governance problems ran far deeper than she had realized. Her proposed restructuring would need to be more comprehensive, more fundamentally transformative than initially planned. The video conference proceeded smoothly. London executives embracing their role in the audit initiative with enthusiasm, tempered by appropriate caution. Kate guided the discussion with practiced ease, her external composure betraying none of the turmoil beneath. By 8 o'clock, Hammond Tower had quieted. Most employees departed for the day. Kate remained, reviewing financial records Victoria had provided, searching for patterns that might confirm or refute Diana's allegations against the board. A soft knock interrupted her concentration. Jessica Winters stood in the doorway, expression grave. We have a situation, she said without preamble. Raymond Frost suffered a heart attack an hour ago. He's at Massachusetts General. Kate felt the floor shift beneath her. How serious, critical but stable. He collapsed during surveillance operation at the Beacon Club. Medical team responded quickly. I need to go to him, Kate said, already gathering her purse and phone. There's more, Jessica continued. Before he collapsed, Raymond captured a recording of the Graves-Stern meeting. They discussed Diana's death explicitly, confirming Meridian's involvement. More importantly, they mentioned the Hammond mole providing information about your movements. Security protocols. Kate froze. A mole within Hammond. Someone with access to executive schedules, security details. The recording doesn't identify them, but confirms their existence. The revelation landed like physical blow. After all Hammond had endured, after all the safeguards implemented since Warren's arrest, another betrayal festered within the organization. Someone Kate worked with, trusted, was reporting to Meridian. I need that recording, Kate said, mind shifting to tactical assessment. And we need to identify the mole immediately. Already working on it. Limited team, maximum security protocols. Jessica hesitated. Catherine, until we identify the leak, you need to assume all Hammond security is compromised. Your regular protective detail, your home security system, your communication channels all potentially monitored. What do you suggest? Deviation from established patterns, no communication through standard channels, and, Jessica lowered her voice, consider temporary relocation to the secure facility Raymond established. Kate absorbed this recommendation, weighing operational necessities against personal inclination. The secure facility, essentially a luxury bunker disguised as a country estate, offered maximum protection but felt like retreat. Yet strategic withdrawal to secure position made tactical sense, particularly with Raymond hospitalized and a mole active within Hammond. Melissa, Kate said suddenly, if they're monitoring me, already addressed, Jessica assured her. I've arranged private security for her through my SEC connections, completely separate from Hammond channels. She's being moved to a secure location now. Relief washed through Kate, followed by renewed determination. Have my driver take me to the hospital to see Raymond. From there, I'll proceed to the secure facility as you suggest. But Jessica, her voice hardened. This isn't retreat. This is strategic repositioning for counterattack. Understood. Jessica nodded approval. I'll coordinate with Victoria regarding the legal aspects of our response. The recording provides criminal evidence against Meridian's leadership. Once we identify the mole, When we identify the mole, Kate corrected, we'll have everything we need to end this. Permanently. As Kate packed essential items from her office, mind calculating next steps, a strange calm settled over her. The path forward had clarified: protect Hammond from within and without. Identify the traitor in their midst. Bring Meridian's leadership to justice. The objectives were straightforward, even if execution remained complex. Eleanor Bennett's words from months earlier echoed in her mind. Trauma doesn't disappear simply because you survived it. True enough, Kate reflected. But survival itself conveyed strength. She had faced Warren's betrayal and emerged stronger. She would face this new threat with the same resilience. Kate Hammond stepped into the private elevator, leaving behind the office but carrying Hammond's future with her. The storm that had begun on a Maine cliff continued to rage, but she no longer feared its fury. She had learned to navigate in darkness, to find stability amid chaos. Whatever came next, whatever Meridian attempted, whatever the mole revealed, Catherine Hammond stood ready, not just to survive, but to prevail. Some say that scars tell our stories better than words ever could. They mark not just where we were broken, but where we found the strength to heal. Catherine Hammond's journey from betrayal to resurrection wasn't merely about reclaiming what was stolen, her company, her legacy, her very life. It was about discovering that survival itself is an art form, one painted in shades of resilience and calculated patience. The clifftop that was meant to be her ending became her beginning instead. The betrayal that should have destroyed her became the crucible that forged something stronger. A woman who learned to see through masks, to trust not blindly but wisely, to build systems that withstand the darkest impulses of human nature. Warren's greatest miscalculation wasn't underestimating her intelligence or her resources. It was failing to understand that some legacies run deeper than blood, deeper than money. Some foundations cannot be shaken, no matter how violent the storm. In the quiet moments now, as she watches the sunrise from her office window, Catherine sometimes wonders, was it the fall that changes us, or the way we choose to rise? Perhaps there's wisdom in both the breaking and the rebuilding, in learning which parts of ourselves are worth preserving and which must be transformed by fire. After all, the most powerful storms leave nothing unchanged in their wake.